have some important news from you. The FBI director, just within the past couple of days, issued a warning where he said that we're going to face a combination of terror attacks, cyber attacks, and grid attacks on our infrastructure like electricity, all at once at the same time in the United States. He's been saying the same thing since October 7th attacks on Israel. And he's been saying it over and over again. Now, these latest words came from an interview he did with ABC News at a Minneapolis FBI field office, which I think is in Brooklyn Center, if I remember correctly. And he sat down with them. I will put the link for that in the information down at the bottom here. But I've been warning you guys about this stuff for quite a while. And the reason why the FBI director is saying something now, he's covering his butt. They know that something's going to happen. They aren't going to be able to cover it, and they're coming out ahead of time. So when something happens and they are caught with the pants down because they are not doing an effective job, that they can come out and say, well, we warned you, right? So let's talk about what I've warned you about in the past, what Director Ray said, and how this ties into how you're going to protect yourself and you're going to protect your church. Now, on this channel, we talk about everything church safety, how to protect your church, and also how to protect yourself. If you're not a believer, that's okay. You're still welcome to stay here. We routinely talk about things that would interest concealed carriers, that would anybody interested in self-defense and protecting themselves or even their homes. So a couple other things that Director Ray said that I think we should take note. The two other things, one was that he warned about election interference by a foreign government. And he also warned about how our southern border is so open that he's worried about the people who have crossed the border. And we've talked about all of these things except for election interference. I haven't really talked about that here. But as you guys know, if you're a frequent follower of the channel, I routinely train law enforcement and still talk to them every day. And they are still telling me what's going on. This is at federal, local, and state levels. I still get the bulletins that they send out to law enforcement, but don't send to you. So you don't know what's going on. And so I like keeping you informed so you can keep your family and your church safe. Now let's go back about these terror attacks. Now, I've talked to you about this before, that specifically that there's 450 Tajiks, people from Tajikistan, that have entered the United States. Border Patrol, on the president's orders, have allowed them to enter the country. And now they are somewhere in the United States and we don't know where they are. But that's okay. They have a court date in Texas in September 2025. I'm sure we can go talk to them there when they show up for court. But look, if you follow my weekly newsletter over at ChristianWarriorTraining.com, I've been letting you know in the newsletter about a number of foreign attacks that have occurred where Tajiks have attacked churches and synagogues and burned them and shot it out with the police in other countries around the world. We can look at those attacks and see that that is going to be the same thing that is going to happen here in the United States. Now, it might not just be a church or a synagogue. It could also be a large venue like a concert or a group gathering, but your churches are large gatherings. The other thing we've talked to you about on this channel frequently is that ISIS has called for their followers to attack churches and synagogues. That has already come to fruition in an attack on a church in Houston, Texas. Fortunately, only 2 people were shot. That was the shooter and the shooter's son, who the shooter brought their son with him. Now, that person was mentally ill, but they heard that call from ISIS and acted upon it from that call from ISIS. That was their excuse to go do something. The same thing happened in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, my home state. A young man heard the call from ISIS and was en route to attack churches and had planned to attack them on a Sunday, and he was arrested on a Saturday before he could carry out that attack. Director Ray has mentioned these things because he's covering his butt, because he knows that something is going to happen and they're going to be called to the carpet. They routinely don't work with law enforcement. They say they do, but not really. Okay. And he made a laughable statement. And he said, and the one thing that I think helps bridge those two challenges is partnerships. That's how we get through. It's by all working together. It sounds wonderful in a soundbite on ABC News, which is the lapdog for the federal government right now. The FBI doesn't work with us. In fact, I've told you guys before, I've been to 2 Joint Terrorism Task Force, or been to 2 conferences where Joint Terrorism Task Force has shown up, and the special agent in charge, the boss, has talked about how Middle Eastern terrorism is not a problem anymore, and that real problem is right-wing extremism. Now, their definition of right-wing extremism is people that have, we call it iconology, but like things that you wear, like a morale patch or a t-shirt of the Gaston flag, of the Blue Line flag, a 3% symbol, anything like that. Now, it's funny because as they were doing that, that's half the stuff that cops had on their backpacks or t-shirts that they were wearing. And you would feel good knowing that the cops stood up and fought back against the FBI and basically clowned them to the point I was embarrassed for the FBI showing up in the first place. So they've taken their eye off the ball, have allowed these people to enter the country, and then now we are wondering when they're going to attack us. And we've talked about that on this channel too. We've talked about when they are going to attack us. I've been saying for a year that the best time for an attack is probably going to be sometime around the election, from really now till January 20. But really what it's going to be is right around the end of October. Now, is it going to happen? Man, we don't know, right? We don't know, but that would be the best time to carry out whatever plan that you have. If it doesn't happen, good for us. We escaped something, but we should be ready, right? We should be preparing. And we're going to talk about how you can prepare and what you can do to prepare yourself. But I want to remind you of a video that I did where I interviewed a Joint Terrorism Task Force officer on this channel, and we talk specifically about Hezbollah in the United States. He estimated his job on Joint Terrorism Task Force was specifically investigating Hezbollah in the United States. He mentioned that in his estimate, there were over 30,000 Hezbollah agents in the United States right now. You should go back and watch that interview because he specifically talks about how they are going to act in the United States and how they'll carry out attacks. And it's not like how you think. But we have known for a long time that if we go to war with Iran, that if America and Iran go in any kind of an exchange, that those Hezbollah agents are going to be released and told to start attacking our infrastructure, our churches, and basically creating mayhem in the United States. These are all things that we should be planning for. We shouldn't be worried and stressed out, and just be ready for it and mindful for when it comes. So I did create an alarm system for churches to give you an idea of what threat level we're at right now. Now, most European countries have gone to their highest alert level to warn their countries against terrorism occurring within their country. America got rid of their alert level system. For the older people, you'll remember after 9/11, we had an alert level system where we were at condition orange or condition blue, and it kind of give you an idea of where we're at with terrorism threats within the United States, but they scrapped it and they got rid of it. And I don't know why, probably because they didn't want to look bad, because we would always be at an elevated level because they're doing a horrible job in protecting us here in the United States. But just know everybody else has raised it to the highest level. So I created an alert system, a church threat level system, to help you determine where you should be at with your church to protect it. So right now we're at condition orange, which is a high level of alert. It is one more to go before we hit imminent. Why did I create this? I created it because my background is in intelligence. I do talk to people all the time. I see the bulletins. I dissect what these people say, and I'm doing it off what I believe the government would be putting us at if we had this same system again. Director Ray specifically has said we're at a high level of threats within the United States, at a high level of attack probability against churches and synagogues in the United States. I've outlined repeatedly about how we have threats against us from ISIS, from all the people coming across the border, the Tajiks that are unaccounted for. I can go on and on. You can go back to ChristianWarriorTraining.com. I write about this all the time. It is a free newsletter because I know that money could be a barrier to people getting good training. And so I give it all the training. I give everything to you for free. So that way you can keep your family and your church safe. If you want to support what I'm doing with this ministry, then just do a paid subscription. And that helps me pay for all this stuff. And it helps me pay the bills that come through. So, but you don't have to. It's all free. Now, as we talk about what you can do to protect you and your church, it's very easy for you to say, we're going to lock down our church and put up metal detectors. To be clear, you should not be doing that. Your door should be wide open and letting people in, but we're going to talk about how to do that safely. I want you to remember Isaiah 41. In Isaiah 41, it reads, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." God will be there to protect us. Okay. But God gives us tools to make sure that our churches are safe, and we're going to use those tools, right? So the first thing that you can do by taking care of your church is actually taking care of your family and yourself first, so you're not a burden upon anybody else. Look, hard times are coming. We all know that. And we've had since 2020 to prepare for this. You should have months worth of food, and you should have a decent amount of water saved up, and then you should have something to protect yourself. I obviously have stuff to protect myself, but everybody should have a weapon that they can do to protect themselves for when the people come to take what you have. Let's talk about food and water really quick. Food is super easy. A lot of people do the freeze-dried food and all that kind of stuff. I can tell you the easiest way to do it. The Mormons are great preppers. They have warehouses. It's called Desiree Industries. They have warehouses all around the United States for their people to where you can go buy freeze-dried food and have it ready to go. I found that theirs is the cheapest and the easiest to obtain. You can have it shipped to your house. If you go to the LDS website, you'll find it somewhere. I can't remember. I'll try and find a link and put it in there. I'm not sure I'll be able to find it again, but you don't have to be a Mormon to go to their warehouse. Okay. I bought a lot of stuff from there because it's easy and it's cheap and the Mormons have been persecuted forever. They've got it down as far as prepping. So just go down there and go buy that stuff. And it's the cheapest and easiest way to go, at least from what I found. As far as water, I went down to our local farm and feed store and I got food safe 55-gallon drums. I still cleaned them out and scrubbed them out, put a tiny bit of bleach in there. You can go online and look and it'll tell you like 2 tablespoons for 55 gallons or something. Don't do it. Don't quote that. Go double check yourself, okay? I've actually got it written on the side of my barrel, and then I cycle that out every 6 months. So now I got food and water for my family. The other thing is I have weapons, right? I have a primary pistol and a primary rifle for every member of my family. You should have 2,000 rounds of rifle ammo and 1,000 rounds of pistol ammo, and that should be self-defense ammo, not training ammo, not practice ammo, not anything else. That will get you through a majority, and when I say that's 2,000 per rifle, per pistol, right? So, you should figure out like what that's going to be, right? For your household. That just to give you an idea of what you should have for yourself. And you should remember, I should mention something that Director Ray talked about and talk about why you need stuff to protect yourself. Director Ray said that he was amazed at the number of law enforcement officers that are being murdered in this country right now. Right now, we're averaging one officer every 5 days being shot in the United States or killed. And many of these officers are being killed for helping people. In Minneapolis specifically, there was an officer that came to aid somebody that looked like they were hurt, and somebody shot and killed them while they were rendering aid. Many officers are getting prosecuted for murder for clearly self-defense shootings. A good example of that is one that's occurring in Alameda County, where I used to work, which is Oakland, Berkeley area. An officer in San Leandro is getting prosecuted for murder. A man was attacking other people with a baseball bat in a Walmart. The officer responded by himself, engaged the suspect. He was attacking people with a baseball bat. He tried to tase him. The taser was not effective. The guy fought through it and was about to attack the officer with a baseball bat. And so the officer shot him and killed him. The officer is white. The suspect is black. The district attorney is prosecuting the officer for murder. That is clearly self-defense. And I don't think there's going to be a conviction even in Alameda County, but the prosecutor got elected by saying that they were going to prosecute every cop that shot somebody. So every cop in that county has started not doing police work because nobody's protecting them. And so they can't do their job. And so my point being is that there are less officers on the street today than there were in 2020 or even 2014 when this hatred against police started. And we can get into the politics about why everybody hates the police. The number one thing is depolicing worked. There are less cops today than before. And when you call 911, it is going to take longer than it has in the past for somebody to come help you. So you should have the training and the skills to protect yourself and be ready for that. So the same thing goes for your church. The amount of time it's going to take the police to respond to your church for an emergency is going to be significantly delayed. So you need to be at a higher level of training and have better equipment than you ever have before so you can handle whatever threats come until the police show up. If they do. If we have a grid attack and they take down our grid, nobody is coming. There is nobody coming to help you. And you're going to be by yourself. And you better be able to defend yourself and your family because you cannot rely on anybody else but what you have set up in your self-protection plan. Look, I was a cop for 30 years in the San Francisco Bay Area. I can tell you right now, I know what it looks like when the mayhem breaks loose and there are no officers to respond. To give you an example, in the city I live in a city. I live in the city, but kind of on the edge of the country. We have 2 police officers. 2 in the entire county, not including like municipal police officers in other cities, but the county, which would come assist them, there's 4, and it could take them 45 minutes to get here. The city I policed was a city of about 100,000 people. In a city of 100,000 people, we policed it with 5 people on patrol that can respond to calls. 5, what happens when they can't come? What happens when I've worked before where 911 has gone down and people can't call in and it's lasted for hours. Mayhem occurs, right? What are you going to do? So I want you to plan everything as if nobody's coming to help you and you have to be self-sustaining for weeks. Because if our grid goes down, I have a friend that works for a major electrical utility in the United States, and for them, when they did a cyber attack simulation, it took doing the exercise. It would take them 2 weeks to restart the electricity. If everybody was sitting at their desk and everybody responded like they were supposed to, that doesn't include this happened in the middle of the night. Doesn't include if a guy has to leave his family in the middle of a riotous situation, get through the riot, drive into the mountains to flip a switch. That doesn't include delays like that. Or people that just say, screw it, I don't care. I'm here to protect my family. I can tell you right now, law enforcement, they're not going to report for work. They would have 20 years ago. We would have, because it was a noble calling and people appreciated what was going on. Today, law enforcement has been vilified so bad that officers are openly saying that when this happens, they're just going to take care of their family and they'll go back to work when it's done. And what do you expect them to do? They're being vilified and held back from doing their job. They didn't become cops to drive around and watch Netflix in the parking lot. They became cops to arrest bad guys and put them in jail and have them stay in jail so they don't come out and reoffend. All right. So we talked about your family. Let's talk about your church. What are you going to do to protect your church? Churches should be collaborating with law enforcement right now. For a lot of you, you might get, like for me, if I was collaborating with a church, I've got the party line that my department is going to tell me to say, but then I'm going to tell you what it really is. So I'm going to tell you, this is what my department wants me to tell you, but this is the way it really is. This is what's really going on right now, and this is what's really facing you. And then also you can tell me you're worried, and now I'm going to drive and fly the flag through your parking lot a little bit more to make sure you're okay. So getting a contact with, and there are a lot of believers at church, at police departments that would love to work with you. I've known a number of cops that have gone on to become pastors. I'm actually looking at that right now. I'm actually looking right now at going back to school and what education do I need? How do I do it? What's it going to look like to become a pastor or a minister? All right. So this partnership that you have with law enforcement could include regular briefings to get together. Now, I just got done from speaking at Jack Hibbs' church in Chino Hills in Southern California this weekend. It was a great event. We went way over time. It was supposed to be 4 hours. It went 5 or 6 hours. And we talked about all the security threats for churches, how you can prepare and everything. But what I liked was that the Calvary Chapel Church brought in terrorism liaison officers, TLOs, from the Joint Terrorism Task Force to come in and talk about how churches can be integrated into the JRIC, the Joint Regional Intelligence Center. There are many regional intelligence centers that will let churches come in under their infrastructure rule. So, certain infrastructure industries can come in and get insider information. They're now including churches, some of them, not all. It's very difficult to become part of it, but it was nice to see them come in and say, we want you to come in and we'll start briefing you guys. Take whatever info you can get, because again, you'll get somebody like me that will be like, hey, this is what I'm supposed to tell you. On a side note, I can't tell you specifically what's going on, but you might want to be ready for this. And then tell you something on the side. How do you get involved in that? Just find out who your Joint Terrorism Task Force office is, and then give them a call and figure out how to become part of the infrastructure insiders and find out more information about that. You want to make sure you have comprehensive surveillance of all your gatherings, right? So I've mentioned before, each week, you need a fire alarm, a burglar alarm, and a 4K video system to track things within your church and outside. You need to have somebody watching those video cameras during your service so you can see an attack before it comes. Now, I did a debrief of an active shooter in New Zealand that killed 45 people. And part of that debrief is I walked through how if they had a surveillance system, they would have seen him way before he even walked up, and they could have engaged him and stopped him, and 45 people would have been saved. Those cameras are super important for you to have. You want to make sure that you have a good policy on a lockdown procedure that basically, how am I going to lock down my church if something were to occur? And then you practice that lockdown over and over again so everybody knows their roles. You want to make sure that all your open entrances are monitored. Now, preferably it's an armed security officer that's standing there, but I get that not everybody can have a gun, or some churches prohibit guns from being in their church. I'm not going to get into the politics of pacificism or state laws or whatever, but what we have right now if you can have an armed person acting as a greeter. When I stand at entrance, I act as a greeter. I'm like, hey, how are you today? Welcome to the church. Hey, nice to see you again. Hey, your kids look beautiful today. Love that dress. And I just sit there and yuck it up with everybody, but I'm also monitoring for threats. So when I see somebody like, welcome to the church, come on over here. Let's talk over here for a minute. And I can separate that threat before they come in the door. You want to make sure there's no open doors that aren't monitored by somebody, even an unarmed person, right? If you're unarmed, you can get a weapon anywhere. You can see in my background right there, I've got a cane. It is made of hickory and it's got a stainless steel end to it. And I can use that like a police baton. And I can crack a skull, I can crack a kneecap, I can do whatever, right? It may not be a gun, but if I go to a place I can't have a gun, I take my cane because I can always get in with a cane, right? So you can stand there with your cane if you want, and that's your defense tool. Pepper spray, a taser, not like the Amazon taser where you touch somebody. I'm talking like a Taser Industries taser, like the real one, which I'm looking at buying one of those and doing a review on it. And just so you know, like the money that you give to me so graciously to the ministry through doing a paid subscription over at christianwarriortraining.com, I use that money to do stuff like buy a taser and then put it through testing and then let you know, does it work or not, and how you can implement it. So if you want to do that, that would be very nice, but you don't have to, right? Because I know money's a barrier to get good training. I don't want that to be there. So you want to practice communication amongst your team in case there's some kind of an incident. So just practice those communication skills and how you're going to do it, like meaning on the radio and stuff like that. All unmonitored doors should be locked so nobody can enter. And then lastly, you need to have personnel in the parking lot. Imagine security as an onion. In that onion, you have an outer ring, inner ring, and a very, very inner ring. So the outer ring, I actually think it's important for you to be outside at the front door, watching the parking lot, because you can see the threat before it comes in. Many times I've reviewed multiple active shooters in my live presentations, and I will show each time they were walking up with a firearm that was visible, and they could have been engaged while they were in the parking lot before they got inside and started their active killing. So be outside. Then you have another ring inside monitoring. And then you have some at the stage where the pastor is ready in case somebody interferes. Do not implement anything that prohibits people from coming into your church. Your church needs to be open so that new followers can come in the door, see a welcoming environment, and be welcomed with open arms. We can't interfere with that. I'm telling you right now, you can see the threats before they come. And you can see the new people coming in that are looking to worship. Those new people, welcome with opening arms. Bring them in, pass them off to the welcome team, let them get inside. That threat that's walking up with the rifle, though, engage them quickly, swiftly, violence and surprise action. Get to it, get your work done, and protect the people inside, right? It is not rocket science. I do see repeatedly in the YouTube comments people that you're wrong, it's time to lock our churches down. No, actually, I'm not wrong. I'm totally right. Keep your church open. It has to be wide open so people can come in and worship. You just need to do a better job of keeping your head on a swivel and looking for the telltale indicators of somebody coming to do harm. You want to know what those telltale indicators are? Then take my course over at Christian Warrior Training on identifying threats. I have a 40-minute class on how you identify people that are coming to your church to do harm and how you can divert them and stop that. It's a free class. My gift to you as a fellow follower of Christ. I need you to pray for the safety of you, your church. Throw me in there if you want to. I'd appreciate it. I love prayers. But pray unceasingly and keep praying for the safety of our church and pray for the new followers that are coming to us. And then also remember your ABCs. Always be caring,